Hard hat's all about showing up to play hard, doing what it takes to win.
If you want to cement legacy, win another.
He's your third center.
You don't want to pump him up too much, but it's hard not to.
This is maybe the most I've ever agreed with you.
Real quick, I want to address this by Cass because I don't understand this topic. We literally have everything we have because of tanking. It's the only reason this version of the Celtics exists. The 1 year they decided to go in the toilet and trade off Garnett and Pierce and all of that and finish where they finished, and then all
they
of
got
the
Marcus
fruit.
Smart.
Well, no, because off of that you traded away all of your pieces to go in the toilet. And then they got everything as a result of it. I know Marcus was what you got with your finish that year, but getting rid of all of your parts for future assets, the future assets are your team right now. What are we talking about?
I just want to say the Washington Wizards have the number 6 pick right now.
What's that?
I just want to say that the Washington Wizards have the number 6 pick this year.
That's great. So there's hope.
And look at who the Jazz drafted.
You can finish bottom 8.
Well,
you can be in a terrible spot.
We're thinking about the last time the Celtics kind of went into the tank, but think about the time before that when there was this guy named Tim Duncan.
There's some horror stories. Even the Durant year.
Thinking is like rolling the dice. Like it's the same as anything else. It's not a surefire thing.
Well, see, here's the thing, though. In the NBA, every day, more times than not, it doesn't work. When you intentionally play with the basketball gods and try to tilt the scales of basketball justice in your favor, it usually blows up in your face. We've seen it happen in Boston.
But when it happens organically, it just happens. Like
nothing about what you're saying is organic, though.
But think about
it. If people are hurt, you're already out your best player, and you have no choice but to sell other pieces off for in a fire sale just to get under the tax. You're taking big steps back under ideal circumstances. One other thing tilts in the wrong direction, and you're legitimately deep into the lottery without even
you're just
trying.
Hoping that happens.
I'm just saying if it did happen, I'm not going to be pissed because I don't care if they finish 39 and 40 whatever next year, or 43 or 25 and whatever. If they're going to be a crap team with no chance of getting out of the first round or even through the play-in, why would you not want to take a shot at a high pick? It's just 1 year of agony. It makes no sense to want to be mediocre. I don't get that at all.
If you have to redshirt Jalen and Tatum for 1 year and it gets you a top 5 pick for
sign me up.
Yes.
To me though,
sign me up faster than the Alman Thompson deal, Noah. Okay, even faster.
Let's say it's play-in because obviously Dallas got number 1 out of the play-in here, which is extremely rare, but it can happen. You're still in the lottery if you lose in the play-in, and if you fall a little below that,
that's not going to happen.
You're still a 10th pick. No, but to me, John, if you're not going to be number 1 in the lottery, which obviously you're not going to be next year, even under some of the worst circumstances. Be 10, be 15. Like those are still valuable positions on the board, and you're continuing to compete, and you're not having this demoralizing season for some guys who might be part of this thing beyond next year. I think there's value. Those bad years, John, are so disruptive. And to use your Pats comparison, because I think this is absolutely going to be the case, the Patriots are going to really struggle to get out of that hole. Like that year they had, those couple years they had going from the winning to just this horrifying losing, that takes a long time to recover from. You don't just have great stuff happen from the losing and then go, all right, time to win.
It literally happened last year.
It
literally happened to the Washington Commanders, who ended up in the championship game in 1 year. It literally happened in 1 year. It happens in the NFL in a year all the time. All the time. Teams flip. The Houston Texans flipped in a year. NFL. It happens all the time. The NFL, literally every year, there's a team that goes from lottery to first. And then there's horribly mismanaged teams that don't. But it happens all the time. And again, I'm not saying it does. The NBA is harder because in the NFL, you can get quality in the fourth round. You can get starters and stars in the third and fourth round. You're right. In the NBA, anything outside of the top five, you're kind of hoping for a rotation player. You don't really know. So there's no assurances. It's harder to nail, a franchise player there. You might end up with a Dyson Daniels type instead, which is valuable, but it's not going to turn your franchise around. Of course, that's a good pick. He's picked 8th overall a couple of years ago, or a Thompson brother, at 4th or 5th or whatever. Like you want to give yourself a shot to get that guy. And yes, every once in a while, you're going to find your Maxey at 14 or your Giannis at wherever he went.
Or James Wiseman.
Or of course, it's a crapshoot. You can strike out everywhere.
You got to draft well from anywhere too. Yeah.
But imagine punting a whole season.
But you're just looking at
a whole
odds.
season with a bunch of great players in their prime, and then you get James Wiseman. Like
it happens. Look at how. I mean, again, we don't have to look.
Yeah, if you
far.
can't control it,
look
you
at
can't
the
control
draft.
it.
Look at
You
the
can't
Tatum
control
draft.
it.
Look at the Tatum
Right.
draft. You were psyched.
But the Tatum
and then
draft
it's
was different because it wasn't their
false
picks. They got
ball
so lucky
Tatum.
with that.
I know that. What I'm saying is you have your likelihood of hitting is higher. If you just break it down, you're going to find top 5 picks is where you're finding your all-stars and your franchise cornerstones. 5 to 10, you're finding starters. 10 to 15 to 10 to 20 rotation players. Not across the board, but that's the average. You're more likely there to find them. The deeper you get, the higher you get. The higher your chances, but nothing is a guarantee. You could pick first overall and grab a bum. Like, it's no question about it, but it's just a greater likelihood. You're really going to have to get lucky consistently picking in the 20s.
My thing is
really lucky.
You can see that the 3 teams that have the top 3 picks this year, they pivoted to a tank mid-season when everything failed. So why not do that? Start the year with intention to win, and then be the 76ers, be the Dallas Mavericks, be the San Antonio Spurs. All 3 of those teams intended to compete this year. 2 of them intended to compete for a championship. And they weren't able to. And now they beat all the teams that spent last offseason being like, we're going to be so awful. And look what happened to them. They got screwed by the basketball gods because they're not supposed to go into an NBA season intending to be terrible. So
I know, but you're just playing the percentages, Noah. You're just playing percentages. You're giving yourself a few percentage points greater chance to make an impact. That's
what's
it.
The cultural? And I'll stop because I get your point, and I get why people agree with you. But I think just what Bobby's saying about the cultural implication of it is just how you become a bottom feeder. Like, these bottom feeders, it's been the same freaking teams my entire life that sucked. And like, I think the teams that have avoided it are the ones that keep staying afloat. Like, I just don't. I think it's like a losing mindset. I understand like the desire to be like maybe we'll stack our chips and.
But this is different, right? You understand
water.
the difference, right, Noah? Like, no, you get the difference between the losing mindset teams that are actively trying to lose by not signing players and sitting them during the season in order to get lower in the standings versus a team that just has 2 injury red shirts to their best players and had to take a step back.
If that's the case, that's fine, John.
The cap hit
I don't think
that you're not building a losing
if
culture.
Jalen can't play next year and they keep him on the roster, then obviously Jalen. I mean, I just have no reason to think that Jalen is not going to be ready for training camp. Like, I'm
not saying that.
Right now.
Yeah.
That's
my hypothetical was it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if he ended up with a medical red shirt, because that would assure you're going to end up somewhere.
That happens.
Yeah.
But
if it happens, it happens. I'm just saying I can live with
you
that.
Don't intend for that to
Your
happen.
Your foundation is different than Washington and Utah. You actually have 2 all-stars who've won an NBA title, and so your culture, even if you have a losing season next year, your culture isn't going to be all of a sudden radically morphed into this losing abyss of crap, because you have a foundation that's redshirting that understands how to not just be successful, but how to be successful consistently. You don't have that in Washington. You don't have that in Utah. You don't have that in these teams that were going out of their way to suck so that they could get the number 1 pick. And because of that, if you're the Celtics, you breathe a hell of a lot easier if you have to sit your 2 best players down for a year, because you know that's not going to all of a sudden turn your organization into this absolute abyss.
They're not going to tank. Players don't tank, coaches don't tank. You put the best players you have out there, and they all try like hell. I'm just saying sometimes circumstances go beyond your control.
This year. A couple of coaches tanked this year.
I'm just saying, generally speaking,
Will Hardy tanked this year.
Especially coaches knowing, look, sometimes coaches are in on it, right? They're in on the grip. But a lot of times coaches on these bottom feeding teams have no guarantee they're coming back next year. This is what happened again to the Patriots, Sherrod Mayo. That whole staff didn't know if they were going to return, and everyone's mad at them for not losing the last game of the year, which would have gotten the Patriots top pick. They had no incentive to do that. They're like, F you, I'm not going to do this for you and then get fired. The players going out there like, I'm not going to go tank so you can get better people to replace me with. People are going to play. Like, the Celtics are going to be competitive next year because Joe Mazzulla is not going to allow it. and the players out there aren't going to allow it. So I'm not saying you can absolutely establish a losing culture when from the owner on down, they're like, let's not try to put a good team together this year. That's a different thing than
they're going to try to put a good team together.
We're going to take our medicine and go into cap jail for a year. And if we come out of it clean with more assets we had when we started, that's a good thing, because I can live with this and they can live with it. They're not going to say it, and they're going to say they want to be competitive. They'll be fine if next year is a total dud. If they know coming out of it, they've got a brighter future because of either trades or picks or whatever, they'll be happy, there. Hold on. Before we do that, and we can continue the conversation, I just didn't get to it. And you got to get in on the action here with Prize Picks, the #1 daily fantasy sports app in all of North America. Basketball playoffs underway, hockey playoffs as well. We're deep into it now, and you want to get in on the action, cash in on those playoffs, points, rebounds, assists, pick more or less for your shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash today. Join millions of users signing up for Prize Picks by downloading the app. Use that code CLNS, and you get 50 instantly deposited in your account when you play 5. You don't even have to win. Play 5, get 50 when you use the code CLNS. In addition to that, great promotions always throughout. You got to be checking in on that app to see what's going on. You get free squares. You get Taco Tuesday. You get players discounted on the boards. That's tomorrow, so check that out. Flex Friday, lineups with a flex play, and a lot of other really cool stuff. So again, download the app, get in on the action. CLNS is the code. Get 50 instantly after you play 5. Once again, code CLNS, get 50 instantly after you play 5. Prize Picks, run your game.
Yeah, so I think back to the Warriors.
The Organk. Yeah.
I'm trying to remember back to the Warriors, because Clay's out. You're going into that year, almost similar circumstance to Tatum. And Curry goes down, right? If I remember correctly, early in that season, never see him again. And that's how that plays out. You didn't totally intend for that year to go as sideways as it did if you're the Warriors, which was, looking back on it, like 15 wins, something absurd like that. You couldn't do that if you tried, if you're the Celtics here. So I think that's where you end up tanking if something like that happens, where the roster's just decimated in a way that's out of your control. And again, we mentioned the Wiseman and everything that played out of that. The other lesson from that, which I think some people have mentioned too, is that you try to keep that core together if you're the Warriors. You did get another championship out of it because of the core players that you kept together there. So I think that's a good argument for keeping the core pieces together. But in terms of competing with those two guys, which you've mentioned, John, if you do keep Brown and Tatum together here, it becomes a lot more difficult when you look at some of the guys that they've surrounded Curry, Green, and Thompson at that time with. It just became a major struggle to find talent. So that's a great example to me of what could happen if they do keep things together here. There's still that chance that you could catch lightning in a bottle and win another championship in 2-3 years, but you're probably not going to be in a prime position like you were last year and the year before that, where you're going to have the best team in the league and perennial opportunities to do it.
I also do think that there are paths to being better than we think this year, because
absolutely
right now the assumption is that Porzingis doesn't have value, even though some people will argue that he does because he's expiring, or Holiday's older and you're not sure what you're going to get. Again, if you take the role of, I'm going to let the contenders come to me and give an overpay because they're in win now mode. Again, you're talking about the Lakers. If they're trying to ride it out with LeBron and they want another, they're trying to get a big desperately. Kristaps Porzingis makes a lot of sense. He makes a lot of sense in Golden State as well. So there's places where the players make sense, where you might be able to get stuff and not just go straight up backwards. Be like, I could use Rui, there's things here that this is a good replacement. You might be able to swap a player or two closer to equal value, or not such a ripoff where you're like, oh my God, I just dumped a salary. That's not the end of the world. You hold the line, Jalen comes back healthy, you make the playoffs and you're not as far off as you thought. Then you can start to retool with a little bit more cap flexibility. I don't think it's over in that regard. I just think it's over in this shape and form, and we have to come to grips with players are going. We just don't know what's coming back. That's the big thing here is it's really going to come down to how much people value what the Celtics are selling. And when I say be willing to sell it all, that might mean just get cheaper and see if people will overpay for you with young, kind of younger talent that can fill roles and be professional basketball players and rotation players that allow you to field an actual team next year that's competitive and that you can use when you come back with Tatum and whatever else you're able to reload with, now with the ability to aggregate salaries in a trade and trade your own draft picks and all of the things that you can do once you get out of this second apron jail. So I'm not entirely gloom and doom. I do think there might be some deals out there to be had, but there's so much uncertain right now. The range of possibilities is from lottery team to a 4 seed really right now. So
no one's sneaking a vegan brownie by me, I'll tell you that.
Okay, you know what, John? We're going to do it.
You have to feel that way too, Bobby.
I have to feel that way.
Yeah.
Slide Al over and make Luke your first center.
Bobby, we gave you Luke hour early. We're not going to end this on a damn conversation about Luke